Now, welcome to another weekend ramble. For this time, the topic will be
kind of a two-pronged. What would you want from the Rey movie that's going to, set after the sequels? Like, if you, Thor Skywalker, were the one in charge of writing the Rey movie, you have to keep everything canon that has been made canon. You cannot take it away. How would you make this movie?
I have to.
And the second part of the question will be, what movie would you do after the sequels if it didn't have to be a Rey movie? If you could make anything after the sequels. But we're going to start with, if you had to make it a Rey movie, what would you do?
Oh, boy.
It's a doozy.
I would have it be a Finn movie.
No. You heard what I said. The movie has to star Rey. She has to be...
Star Rey, or does she have to just be in it?
You're kind of taking the Disney premise, which we're assuming the next movie will kind of focus a little bit on Rey.
Yeah, well, we've heard that the next movie isn't really supposed to be about her as much as it is her students, like 2 students that she has.
Okay, well then you get to play with that premise and tell us what kind of movie you would make.
I mean, the sad part is, like, any movie you would kind of want to do with Rey would be what you should have done with Luke, right?
Right.
And so it kind of feels
so
like
what
you're
would you have
cheating
done
Luke.
with Luke then?
Well, I mean, that's...
You need to, like, if you were told you were in charge of writing this movie, good luck, and make it so that Star Wars fans were happy.
I mean, it's actually very hard now because we've done it before, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I was just saying with Luke, we've kind of already done this. So, like, what do you do now? You show that Rey is successful or where Luke failed? I mean, I think I would probably... Speaking of Luke, I would probably have his Force Ghost in there.
It would be really cool, actually, to have his Force
kind
Ghost
of
in there.
helping her and guiding her and maybe kind of trying to fix him even more than they tried to. And I put quotations kind of around that in the Rise of Skywalker, where he comes, a Jedi's weapon deserves more respect with the whole lightsaber and everything. I mean, I would definitely include Luke and probably Leia too, just because they seem to be like a pair there at the end of the Rise of Skywalker, and they quote unquote both trained Rey.
Yeah, she actually trained with Leia, we imagine.
More than Luke. Yeah.
Do you think that you should include anything that's from a different part of canon? Like, what if they decided to bring back something that I personally found terrifying from the High Republic era, the Nameless and the Levelers?
I don't know. It depends on what they're actually doing with them in the end game here with the Phase 3. I mean, I could see doing that if you really wanted to try to, like, connect everything, and I wouldn't put it past Disney and Lucasfilm, especially this is like a Kennedy project, it feels like.
Well, you do need some sort of a big bad. We're rebuilding the Order, and we have to assume something has to be trying to possibly stop the Order from being rebuilt, or there's just some sort of a threat that is heralding why this needs to happen. Yeah. Maybe a vision spurred her into realizing we need to have more Jedi because something is coming.
Yeah. I think you bring in a threat to the Force itself. That's probably what I would do.
Not another intergalactic
civil
war?
I certainly wouldn't do Rebellion and Empire again. I wouldn't do anything like that. In fact, I would kind of go out of my way to show the Republic being rebuilt and doing it right this time. I wouldn't do like kind of what we're seeing in The Mandalorian with how things aren't going well. I would definitely kind of imply like things are going well with the Republic, that Rey she's got some new students, probably Finn is there as well. They're training a new generation. Everything seems to be going well. And then maybe then they have, I don't know, maybe then like the Force kind of stops working for them, right? They're having trouble connecting to it. Like something is interfering. Like
maybe something corrupting it?
Yeah, something is corrupting the Force itself. We have a kind of a new threat coming into the Force. Maybe that, finally we have balance and this has attracted something to that.
What if by destroying Palpatine, he is corrupting the Force from the beyond?
No.
Let's bring back Palpatine again.
No. It wouldn't
Disney,
even be like
Sith
listening. Related. I would like just drop the whole Sith thing for right now. And I'm not saying you never go back to the Sith or Darksiders, but I do something beyond that. And I know you're like, well, Rey's going to, she's the chosen one. She stopped the Sith. And she's all the Jedi. Now she's going to save the Force. I wouldn't have her be the one who does it. I would definitely bring in a new kind of generation. I would kind of play off of that. But certainly she's going to play her part.
Well, yeah, a mentor role, of course, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that's what I do. I mean, that's probably what I would do with, if I was ever going to do the sequel trilogy. I've kind of started my own sequel project, as a lot of people know. So you bring in a threat outside of the Force itself. You don't bring back the Sith. You don't just have the dark side. You have something else.
Well, and I think you're right that maybe relegating her to a mentor role rather than a main role, per se, is maybe the better option.
I mean, I could see it going the other way too. I mean, she's young. She's like 30 years old. There's no reason not to
She's
have
in
her.
her prime, yeah.
Yeah, she's in the prime of her life.
It would
There's
almost
actually
be a
no
waste.
reason. Yeah, I do agree with that. I mean, if you like Rey, you're probably going to want to see a movie or a trilogy with her being Rey, being what we kind of wanted to see out of Luke, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where she's kind of, evolved and she is a true Jedi and she has more power, even more power.
Well, bring in her and Finn together, maybe doing some of the stuff that we wish we could have seen. These stuff from Legends that were more Mara Jade and Luke Skywalker-esque. I don't know. Just give us something with, here's Jedi in their prime, but I like the idea of a threat to the Force rather than just another army v army type situation.
Yeah, certainly there has to be some kind of, physical enemy, army type thing to fight against, right? We need to see space battles and ground battles. We need to see that stuff too, I think.
It would almost be cool, and I don't know how many people have seen this movie, but Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within.
Wow, that's the first ever all full CGI movie. That's like 20 years old at this point.
And it's a fantastic movie where the threat that the people were facing were a threat that they something that they couldn't physically touch, but if it physically came in contact with them, it ripped their souls out of their bodies and killed them.
Yeah.
It was kind of crazy and horrifying because how do you stop them? How do you stop something like that?
Yeah, I mean, you could bring in something Yuzon Vong, right? Something like that. But I don't know that that's what I would go with. I would go with something that's different, something that nobody's expecting, something that again is maybe somehow within the Force itself. And I mean, Lucas himself had some really weird things he said about his sequel trilogy, about how the Wills were going to they're feeding off the Force and all these kind of strange things. So I kind of, as much as some people probably wouldn't like it, I would lean into something again that's within the Force that is corrupting it or destroying it or threatening it or something like that.
That Rey and Finn have to rise up to go and use any sort of knowledge they can find to track down and save the Force.
Yeah,
to purify it, maybe.
Yeah, have it be more adventure style too, where they're out there, looking for whatever the source of this threat is.
Mm-hmm.
And,
maybe they take a couple students with them, some of their advanced students.
Maybe one of their students, is hearing a call or something of the others, the anti-Force. I don't know, something along those lines, and maybe they're tapping into that suddenly. And I know it sounds like the dark side in just a kind of a different form, but it's it's actually, instead of just where the dark side wants to kind of dominate, this thing just wants to destroy, just completely obliterate and get rid of life and everything. So
maybe they notice in some of the younger students they are no longer able to access the Force, and it's kind of progressing.
Yeah,
because that could be a very interesting story. Could be something I'd be very interested in seeing. I'm almost sad that we're not talking about the actual synopsis of the movie right now.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty generic, to be completely honest with you. I think they're probably going to bring in another just bad guy and. I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll do something like you're suggesting and bring in some kind of other dark sidey type thing, like the Levelers from High Republic. Or
I honestly just want to see those in live action, because when I read that book about what they did to those Jedi,
they kind of turn them to stone. And,
they're terrified. It horrifies them.
Yeah, they can't even function and
right, to be that frightened that they cannot function, that they can't touch the Force, they can't save themselves.
Yeah,
it was horrific, and I think in live action that would be monumental if done correctly.
Well, sure.
Okay.
If done correctly.
Do you want to move on to the second part of the question? What if you didn't have to use Rey and Finn, or you didn't have to use any of the sequel characters? You were just writing a story that took place after the sequels.
How far after the sequels? Do I have to keep it
No, you can pick any part in the time you want.
I go at least 1,000 years into the future. I go to a whole different kind of... I set up a whole new time period in Star Wars.
Whole new time period.
And what would that look like? That's hard to say. I mean, I would really have to think on that. But it would, it would still be similar to what has, been done before.
Might be interesting to examine a different culture's view on the Force.
Yeah,
Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, I would just have it where the Jedi had been established again. And I would probably do the same kind of idea where it's more of a threat to the Force than just, the rise of the Sith all over again. Though they could certainly probably be a part of it. Maybe the Sith are, kind of what the High Republic too, where they've unleashed something upon the Jedi, and there's a lot of things you could do, but I would definitely have to give it a lot of thought. But I would move far into the future.
I think far into the future is an interesting thought. I think making a threat to the Force in general is an interesting thought. I kind of hope they think outside the box, because they can't just do another good guy v bad guy situation. It has to be more than that. It has to be more existential.
Yeah, we need something besides just And look, I always think you can go back to Darksiders versus Lightsiders and good versus evil. That's always going to be a mainstay, something you can tap into and do stories about. I'm not suggesting we need to stop doing that, but it would be cool to just see something different.
Absolutely. I would love to see something more thought-provoking than just black and white, bad, good. Just, give me something a little more in-depth.
Yeah, I mean, I yes and no. I mean, I got no problem with that. Like, that is the core of Star Wars, as I always talk about, selfless versus selfish. It definitely should always kind of be there. But if you wanted to explore something else with Star Wars, I'm fine with that. As long as it's something kind of more, meaningful, right? More profound, something that we can all kind of relate to and understand, and something that, stands the test of time, and a new kind of lesson or idea that you could use here. Mm-hmm. I certainly think there's the potential with the Jedi and the Force and just the universe in general. It's set up for a lot of different things and a lot of different ideas to be explored.
Well, I'm kind of liking everything you're saying. I want to know in our comments, what would you make as a sequel movie? If you had to use, let's just keep it to the first part. If you have to use Rey in the sequel movie, put in the comments below what kind of sequel are you making. And don't just throw something.
I don't want to do Rey.
I don't like Rey, so I'd kill her. And no,
yeah, like
give it a little bit of thought.
I certainly understand there are people who don't like Rey and would never want to do this movie. I get that, but yeah.
Give it some thought. Give us I want to hear a real pitch here. I want to hear a real.
Yeah, give us your
this
best
is what
pitch.
I
You're
think.
Walking into Lucasfilm.
If this is what they say, hey, you're going to make a Star Wars movie. It's taking place after the sequels. Everything from the sequels is canon. We want Rey to be in it, at least Rey. What kind of story are you going to try and tell? A story that it doesn't have to try and salvage the sequels. It doesn't have to try to fix things. But going forward, it can set a precedent of, here's a great Star Wars movie, here's a new jumping on point.
That's actually a pretty good question in itself, too. Like, do you try to fix the sequels, or you just kind of, pretend that they're a thing and you don't really reference them too much?
I feel like the less you acknowledge them, the better, in a sense.
In a sense, I think you're right. I mean, you're not going to, go out of your way to contradict them, but you're not really going to go out of your way to validate them. They're just,
there's nothing to validate.
Here's this character Rey and her Jedi Order, and there you go.
When you spend so much time validating what happened before, you're just wasting screen time.
Sure. I mean, it's going to be really... Say what you will about doing this movie, but whatever they come up with, I'm just curious to see, because it's got a lot against it.
It does. It's an uphill battle the entire way. Yeah. Until we actually see the movie. Even seeing a trailer will not be enough to dissuade people from their opinions on what this movie will be.
No, there are some people who are going to hate it automatically, and some people are going to love it automatically, and some people who are going to be somewhere in the middle. It's going to be a wild ride, I think, if this thing actually does come to fruition, which it seems like they're pretty hell-bent on doing. Mm-hmm. But for now, that's all we got for you this time. Now it is your turn to take to the comments below. Again, what do you think they should do with this Rey movie? What is your pitch? If you're going into Lucasfilm, you're sitting down with Kennedy and Filoni, what do you say for this film?
To try and make a great Star Wars sequel.
Yeah, sequel. Mm-hmm. Anyway, leave those comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.